Morning you guys, it's Karen, and I thought I would come and give you my opinion on this palette, which is the Pat McGrath Mothership palette, and this is Divine Rose 2. I talked about how I had this on my eyes in the last but one video. I don't have it on my eyes today, by the way. And how my husband bought it for me as a present, because I would never spend £115 on an eyeshadow palette. But I had been talking to him about how expensive it was, and I was saying to him, can you believe there's an eyeshadow palette for £115? And I was telling him the name, actually, because I was like, it's got a long name, Mothership Divine Rose 2, you know. And I said, I have no idea who this Pat McGrath is. So he obviously just sort of logged it and went and bought it. And I think with my dad passing, he's wanted to find ways to cheer me up, but we've talked about how with lockdown, you know, it's not like we can just go out for the day or go out for dinner or go out for lunch or whatever. And so with less expensive palettes, he probably wouldn't know what to buy me, but when I mentioned this and he knew I'd never buy it, I think that he thought, oh, this might be something that'll distract her or cheer her up, you know. So very sweet, but I would never have spent that money on it. But I was curious and I was delighted to have it. And of course I was like, right, let's see what makes this £115 palette. You know, is it going to be easier to blend than anything else I've used? Are the colours going to be unique, like nothing I've ever seen? That's the kind of thing I was thinking. It's very, very heavy, by the way. This palette is very heavy. And this is not, I suppose you would say this is not a professional review, because I'm not one that will, I'm not very good at swatching. I often hold them up and you can't see them very well. I'm not going to use this palette, but I will show you pictures of me wearing the shadows. I'm just telling you my opinion and if I think it's worth it. So we'll give you a swatch of the colours now and tell you what I think. There's two matte colours in here. There's a matte burgundy and this matte sort of terracotta, and they are both really nice. They are a little bit powdery, that's the only thing, and that's my preference is for shadows not to be powdery, but it's not a deal breaker for me. And they do blend really lovely. You know, you put this one on in your crease and it's almost blended out for you as soon as you put it on. But it's about the same level, I would say, as a Vizart shadow. Actually, somebody said that when I was saying, you know, why is it £115? Somebody was saying it's because of you're paying for the name, like with Charlotte Tilbury, Natasha Denona and Vizart. But actually Vizart Natasha Denona palettes aren't as expensive as this. There is one Natasha Denona I noticed that's £111 but has 15 shadows in. This has 10. But the rest of the Natasha Denona palettes are about £60. So I think this is the most expensive brand that I've seen anyway. So those two mattes are lovely. I've mostly used this one in the outer corner, that one in at the crease. I wish this one was a bit more of a neutral colour, because you then always get that really warm, multicoloured look rather than any kind of neutral look. Not that the rest of the colours are neutral, but you know, that's just what I would prefer. So those are the only mattes. There's one, I believe there's only one trichrome in here, which is this one here. So I will swatch that for you because it's completely different to how it looks in there, I think. That's what it looks like. So it's a sort of, it's purple mixed with cream, peach mixed with green, you know, it's all sorts of colours. So I'll show you a picture of it on the eye. I didn't think it looked that amazing on my eyes, but I think that this is a palette to suit younger eyes. But that's another thing about the price. I had thought for that price it was maybe a formula that would be flattering to older, more mature eyes, because I know that, for example, the Too Faced ones I find much more flattering, and I have used other shadows that just seem to draw attention to how, you know, how loose the skin is here, etc. And this one, it wasn't awful, but it wasn't, I just could see, I've seen looks using that trichrome colour that look lovely, and I didn't think it looked all that on me. So I've told you about the two mattes. Those are the two mattes. Then there's this colour. I have got a picture of me wearing this. This one is a kind of satin and it's a sort of peachy colour. I really like this one, but this one is more like, you can't really see it on my hand, can you? You'll see it in the photo though. This one reminds me of the Makeup Geek pigment in Prism that I love, and I think that the Makeup Geek Prism one is just as nice as this. You probably can't get that one anymore, I would think. But I definitely could duplicate this, you know, I didn't find anything unique about it. Then I did a look with these two colours, which I think these are maybe metallics. So they look a little bit different there. see what they look like swatched. They look different there. What I did was I put this one on the sort of inner third of my lid, and then I put this one in the middle of my lid, and there actually wasn't that much difference on the lid. They are really nice colours, and this one reminds me of my favourite from the Visor Amethyst palette. And again, I've got a picture of me wearing them, but I did go in and darken the corner with this because I just felt there wasn't really much difference between them. It was a very sort of just same tone look, you know. But they were very nice to apply, you know, there was nothing. All of these shadows that I've talked about, the mattes and those two and that peachy one there, were really nice to apply. I haven't used that pink one. It's just a little bit too bright for me, although I really should try it. This is the first one that I wore and you saw me wearing in the video. And it's definitely a gold, isn't it? It is a golden peach, I suppose you would call that. And I thought it was more of a peach. So on the eyes, I didn't love it because you guys loved it, but for me, I prefer a more peachy colour than a gold colour. I told you about that one, I showed you a picture. This one I haven't yet tried. Again, I'm not that big a fan of gold, but I will do, and it looks like it will go on really, really nicely. Very, very pigmented and very shiny. I don't know how flattering it will be. But this one is the only one of the palette that I just found a not very good. Oh, that's my husband coming back with the dog who was feeling sick. This one was not a very good formula. So I don't know whether you can see it there. It's sort of very bitty, and it went on very bitty. The way that I made it work was I had to make sure that the base was very sticky, and I had to go in with a couple of layers, you know, and sort of pat it on. And when I had finished doing that, it looked kind of like it was breaking up. It looked a bit cakey and a bit crinkly, and definitely didn't do my eyes any favours. So this one I didn't like at all. That was the only one I would say I did not like the formula of that. The rest of them, the formula was lovely. They went on beautifully. I just didn't find anything that made it £115. So I did some research as to basically why is this so expensive? Because, like I said, looking at Natasha Denona, Charlotte Tilbury, that was another one, Visor, Natasha Denona is a pretty famous makeup artist, as is Charlotte Tilbury. I don't know whether Pat McGrath is more famous, and that may be why this is more expensive, but it didn't seem to be the case. When I was looking up those three, they were all makeup artists that worked with celebrities and, you know, were well known. There is something on Influencer that says there's 5 answers to why this is expensive. Number one, it says you're paying for high quality eyeshadows, but I think that we all know you don't need to pay that amount of money for high quality eyeshadows. These are no, as far as I can see and have used, they are no higher quality than Visor, etc., and even some not quite so expensive ones like Too Faced. So that I don't really agree with. It says beautiful cohesive colour stories. I'm not really sure what that means. That just seems to me to be words that don't really mean anything to you as the customer. Elegant quality, substantial packaging. Okay, that's fair enough, because I do think it's really elegant, although you can see I actually polished this morning with Windoline. Your finger marks get all over this and it doesn't look so elegant that way. It's got some little gold in here and it is extremely substantial, so I would definitely give it that. It is substantial packaging. I haven't taken this off the mirror. I don't really use their mirrors. But I'm not sure why that matters, and that may just be my personal choice, because I like really lightweight cardboard packaging. That works best for me. This is extremely heavy. This is actually, I compared this to the Anastasia Norvina palette, and this was something like 200 grams heavier than that. It is really, really heavy. And I think if this is meant to be used by makeup artists, that would be, you don't want things that are that heavy in your bags, I wouldn't think. But it is substantial packaging. And the Pat McGrath name, as she is a renowned, world famous makeup artist. But like I said, I believe that Natasha Denona and Charlotte Tilbury also are. And then the final thing is, it says you are paying for her vision, where she is going with her brand. That's another one of those things that I don't really understand. I'm like, what do I get as a consumer for paying for her vision and where she's going with her brand. I don't want to pay for somebody's vision and where they're going with their brand. That doesn't really mean anything to me. I want eyeshadows that are going to work for me, that are unique, that are extremely easy to use. And these are easy to use, but I don't feel that they're unique. I just don't. They're lovely. I mean, I suppose that trichrome colour is definitely unique. I haven't seen anything like that. But I like duochrome, and I think duochrome is enough. You know, that Revolution, that XX Revolution was pretty similar to this, I have to say, the pigment that I used recently. So you can see that my conclusion is that for me, it wouldn't have been worth spending £115. I am delighted to have it as a gift. I think that's amazing, and he's so sweet. And I'm glad I've experienced it. And excuse me, I am actually going to go in and try this gold just to see what it looks like on the eyes, and I'm going to experiment a bit more with the others, and I'll try this pink one as well, because I feel like if somebody spent that amount of money, I'm going to try and make this work. You know, I'm going to try and try lots of different things with it and see how I feel. And I think that this may be worth the money to you if you are a fan of Pat McGrath, if you are a makeup collector. Then it may be worth the money. Like, I was watching Mel doing a review of this, and she said that she ordered two, one in normal packaging, and apparently there's a limited edition packaging, and I was like, oh my goodness, 2 palettes for £115. But I think that's because she is more of a makeup collector. You know, that is her hobby, if you like. I mean, it is my hobby, but I still would draw the line at that. So you guys, I know a few of you said, most of you said you wouldn't spend that money on a palette, but that you were, like myself, intrigued as to what it would be like for that amount of money. Somebody said that they would hope it would apply itself for that amount of money. I agree. I would expect it to make me dinner for that kind of money. But those are my thoughts. Not something I think you need to run out and buy. I don't think you're missing anything. And I think that when things are really expensive, it's a weird kind of psychology, because it makes you go, okay, that must be amazing for being that expensive. So what am I missing? You know, I think that is the psychology of pricing things higher. And I feel like almost with this one, they've gone, you know what, let's go one step more than Natasha Denona, and let's make this £115 and just put 10 eyeshadows in it. And like you say, then you are paying for the name. You're just paying for the fact that Pat McGrath has decided to sell this for such an expensive price. So there's my thoughts on this palette. I hope that was interesting to you. If I use it again, I do normally put the looks on Instagram and Facebook, post, you know, kind of face of the day type pictures. Let me run down what I've got on my face today. I have got on the Laura Mercier Silk Cream Foundation in 3C June. On my eyes I've got a Soap and Glory double-ended cream shadow on my eyes. I really like it. It's a very neutral colour, and I wanted something like that in order to use this red lipstick. This lipstick is by NYX, and it is called 21st. It's one of their new, I think they're called Shout Loud, something like that. I'll link everything in the description anyway. And the blush is, what is that company? Physicians Formula, I think it is. Butter Blush it's called, in Rosy Pink. But like I said, I'll put everything in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.